Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Abhishek Vijay Gopal, and I head SciSec's academic programs, focusing on skilling and promoting research. Welcome to today's webinar. Thank you for joining us. Today's webinar is second in the part of the Digital Defenders Cybersecurity Masterclass and Capture the Flag Competition 2023. This competition is being organized by SciSec in association with Cisco Systems India Private Limited, Cisco CSR, and the Center for Networked Intelligence at the Indian Institute of Science, Bengaluru. Before we begin, a few ground rules. All the attendees to the webinar will remain on mute until the completion of the talk from the speaker. We will have the Q&A at the end of the talk. You can either type in your question in the chat window or do a raise of hands, in which case we will unmute you. This is the program schedule of the Digital Defenders CTF 2023. We are now in the second webinar. We have planned a total of 8 webinars in the month of June. The first 2 webinars focus on network security. So today's webinar is the second with the focus on network security. In the coming week, we will have 2 webinars focusing on web security on June 13th and 16th. The third set of webinars will focus on forensics, and they are planned for June 20th and 23rd. And the final set of webinars will focus on cryptography, and they will take place on June 27th and 30th. The timings of these webinars will remain the same. It will be between 3:30 to 5 p.m. Although we schedule it until 5 p.m., we expect that due to the interaction between the speaker and the participants, it might go up till 5:30 p.m. So please budget for that time. And at the same time, please ensure that you mark your calendar. I will take a brief look at the exciting prizes that we have on offer for the CTF 2023 participants. The icing on the cake is the internship offers. Top participants will be considered for internship opportunities in prestigious organizations. However, this would involve meeting quite a few additional prerequisites by the candidate. It will also be at the discretion of the organizers who are entitled to conduct a set of verifications before deciding upon that. In addition, there would be a total of 25 prizes on offer for the participants that total to a value of over 4 lakh rupees, and they've been explained below on this table. You have 3 first prizes, 5 second prizes, 7 third prizes, and 10 participation prizes, bringing a total of 25 prizes. The first prizes are valued at 40,000 rupees per prize, and they comprise of a Raspberry Pi, a voucher for Hack the Box, and 25,000 rupees cash. The 5 second prizes are valued at 25,000 rupees and comprise of Raspberry Pi, a voucher for Hack the Box, and 10,000 rupees cash. There are 7 third prizes which are valued at 15,000 rupees, which include a Raspberry Pi and a voucher for Hack the Box. And there are 10 participation prizes, which are Raspberry Pis basically, which will be awarded as participation prizes. So the prizes will be distributed only after suitable verification requirements are met by the participant. And the decision on the eligibility of the award for a prize lies at the discretion of the organizers, which will be final and binding. We have now come to the 58th webinar in the Samgacchadhwam series. Last year, the government of Karnataka took an exciting step by providing cybersecurity as an option, as a specialization option for the diploma students in computer science, and we at SciSec helped draft the syllabus of this course. Whilst we are sure that it will be of assistance to the students of this specialization, we are nevertheless confident that it will help other students studying BE, MSc, and MTech, and also working professionals who are interested in cybersecurity as well. Cybersecurity is not just a critical domain, but is also a complex topic. We will aim to provide an overview to each of these domains with opportunities for conducting hands-on activities and some pre or post read to help you go into further depth. We hope that this will kindle your interest to explore further. This slide also shows you the next set of webinars that we have planned on 13th and 16th of June. They would be on the topic of web security and penetration testing. And all the webinars in CTF 2023 are helmed by technical experts from Cisco. So you can access the recordings of the previous webinars on our YouTube channel, and there is also a link to it placed on the SciSec website. I'd request all of you to please subscribe to our YouTube channel. It will help you to know whenever new recordings are out, and it will also help us in gaining better traction and visibility. Let me now take a moment to familiarize all of you with the different social media handles of SciSec. And I'd request all of you to please follow our social media handles actively. So on Instagram and Twitter, it is @SciSecCoE. It's @SciSec on LinkedIn and YouTube, @SciSecCoE on Ku, and @SciSecKAR on Facebook. So I request you to please take a screenshot or write down these handles and follow them actively to get notified about SciSec's events. I will now come to the scheme of our webinar and assessment. So the webinar will first be delivered by the speaker, Mr. Harikrishnan Jayachandran, and this will be followed by the Q&A. So there is a link to the assessment that will be provided at the end of today's webinar. So you can see the link to this assessment on the webinar webpage. We will post it in the chat as well as post it on the Telegram group. We hope that all of you have joined the Telegram group for further updates. And we have now decided to, for the convenience of the participants, to keep the assessment open for 24 hours post the webinar. And some participants who take these assessments might receive a few qualitative and quantitative questions, which will be followed by, which would comprise webinar feedback. We are keen to know how we can improve this webinar series. So we request you to please answer these questions in full seriousness. We request you to please take the assessment using a Gmail ID because it is delivered through Google Forms. There have been certain queries that some people registered for the CTF using a different, that's a non-Gmail ID. The solution to that is, although to take the assessment you need a Gmail ID, there is an email identification field that is part of your assessment form. Please ensure that you enter the same email address with which you have registered for CTF 2023 while taking the assessment. This will only help us tally your scores, and this would be the only means of verification to assess how many points a certain candidate has scored in terms of determining eligibility for the next round of the CTF. So this assessment is going to have 15 questions, and participants who get 10 or more answers correct will be eligible for a certificate. I'm seeing a few messages that no one received the certificate at the end of the previous webinar. The certificates will be sent at the end of all the assessments. So we request you to please bear with us until the assessments are completed. We too will have to tally the assessments and tally them against your registered email address for the CTF, and therefore I am reiterating again that while entering your email address in the assessment form, please ensure that you enter the same email address with which you registered for the CTF. Now it's time for me to introduce to all of you our speaker for today, Mr. Harikrishnan Jayachandran. Hari is a software engineer in Cisco Customer Experience Advanced Solution Organization. He is responsible for innovating and creating solution offers in Cisco security technology. Hari's focus mainly lies in the field of security of IoT systems and cloud computing. He is also an avid member of various security forums and has led the hardware security research team at BIOS, which is the #1 CTF team in India. He has hosted some major security events like SecCon in CTF and has presented in various other university and industry conferences, including Cisco Offensive Summit. His primary area of expertise is with cloud security and user experience design. Currently, he is engaged in identifying opportunities for automation to enable faster turnaround and standardized delivery in Cisco professional services. Hari, nice to have you with us. I will stop sharing my presentation and request you to please turn on your camera and share your presentation.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, let me just set this up once. Okay, Abhishek, I do have a few requests for you regarding the chat, right? So if you see any questions relevant to the topic, please do interrupt me and ask these questions. So I don't mind, that happening. So in case there are any questions relevant to the topic that I'm speaking, please interrupt me and ask, right? So it can be conversational for everybody attending.
Yeah, sure, Hari. Kaushik is monitoring the chat,
Sure.
and Kaushik will pop up those questions to you.
Okay.
Kaushik, I request you to please monitor the chat.
Okay, okay.
Okay, then let's get started. So I think Abhishek gave a very good overview of what I'm doing at Cisco and what are my interests on. So, but let me just introduce myself. So yeah, I'm Hari. I'm a software engineer with Cisco. So yeah, so today we'll be talking about network security. I think most of you were in the last webinar with us where Akshay was talking about packet captures, how to analyze packets, and how you can work with Wireshark, Nmap, Scapy, and all these tools, right? I hope you guys learned a lot during that session. So this session we'll focus a lot more on the attacks part, wherein I will be walking you guys through how a hacker would think. What are the different types of attacks that we see, across the internet, and I'll give you guys an overview of how these attacks are made, and how to defend them. So just a disclaimer here, because I'll be talking about a lot of attacks and exploits and how they're done. So these are my views, and so this does not have anything to do with the company I'm from. And yeah, it's all for educational purposes, right? So start learning, and then yeah, be good. So getting started. So today what we'll discuss is I will walk you through something called as a MITRE attack framework, right? This is we could say this is Bible for us network or cybersecurity professionals. Um, like it explains each and every tactic and technique used by these hackers, or bad adversaries that are trying to get inside our networks, our devices, and all that. Now, MITRE is a organization found by the US government with support for advising the US government on its critical infrastructure. And it's also community driven. That means if you in the future have the knowledge and the know-how of how some of these attacks occur, you can also contribute to this. Um, Now, what is MITRE and what will we be discussing today? So we'll be discussing about the MITRE metrics for enterprise. Now, I'll show you what the MITRE metrics is, but just keep this in mind. What this metric shows is basically all the techniques or the ways a hacker would start. Now, let's take the example. I'll drive you through this session with an example where how a hacker would start his exploitation, get into an organization, what would he do, and then finally what would be the result. And through this journey, the expectation is that you understand the various methods and techniques and tactics that these attackers use, and then from that learn how to defend these systems, right? So only if you know the problem you can come up with a solution. So in this webinar I will just touch the surface of what are all the different methods these attackers use against our systems. There is a lot more to learn, and then so I have given the links, and I'll also share the resources towards the end of this presentation, where you can learn a lot more. So for every like technique and tactic that we are discussing today, there are 50 more that you can learn about. So just one more time, the idea is I'll be talking about the different techniques that attackers are using to get into our systems. And then what you can do is try to come up with defense strategies. And then you can correlate that with the site here. So if you go to attack.mitre.org, you can actually see these different techniques and then how to defend and mitigate these attacks. So, okay, guys, so let's get started. I'll just show you a demo of the MITRE metrics. So this is a very important, as I said, it's like a Bible for cybersecurity professionals and maybe hackers. I come from a little bit of an offensive security background where I was, like experimenting with penetration testing and all that. So I used to use this to even find, okay, what are the possibilities of attacks that we can use against the system. So today I'll be walking you through each of these. Just for your understanding, I'll just explain how you can learn using this site, or what does this metrics mean, right? So if you go to the site I provided before, this is what will open up. It's called the Enterprise Metrics, MITRE Enterprise Metrics. We have a lot of these topics mentioned in the top part horizontally. So that's reconnaissance, resource development, initial access, uh, execution, persistence, all of these. And then you see there are techniques mentioned here. And then on the vertical part, you see more of these, right? So each of this is a like a checkpoint that a malicious actor would have to get into a system, and what would they do. And all the vertical items are nothing but what is that particular method that they're using, or it also has some history, right, about what is like what happened when. So if you like see, okay, this is a one technique that a hacker would use to get into a system, what are the mitigations and detections, right? So this is how you actually read through this particular MITRE metrics. So let me we can go to this, and so this is the metrics, right? So this is just so you guys can experiment on your own after this session, but I'll walk you through most of the items in this section so that you get an understanding of how do all these exploitations work, right? So okay, so this is basically how you traverse the MITRE metrics. So just to summarize that, all the horizontal items, these are the major tactics used by the hackers. So that means, they start from reconnaissance, go into resource development, then initial access. And then under reconnaissance, there would be a lot of the techniques that they use. Okay. So for example, reconnaissance would have phishing. Now that is one technique that is used inside this particular tactic to get into a system. Now, okay, let's get started on what are these different tactics and techniques that attackers use. So let's get started with reconnaissance, right? So think of it like a story. Now, I'm giving you some characters. We have our wannabe hacker, or somebody who does not like an org, or has some bad intentions in their mind to get into an organization. Let's name it ABC organization. Now there is an adversary or a hacker who is trying to get into ABC organization. So that's the base description, right? Now, what are all these processes the hacker would do? And then what is the final result to ABC organization? Now, the first step that the hacker would do is a step called reconnaissance. You can relate a lot of these terms to spy movies and Bollywood movies that are talking about all of this. You can relate this to a lot of things that you already know. So in that way, you will learn a lot more, right? So think of it like a spy movie, and you guys are all part of it. Now, the hacker trying to attack into ABC systems first does the process called reconnaissance. Now, what is reconnaissance? In reconnaissance, what he is searching for is any information about ABC, right? Where is ABC system situated? How many employees does this particular organization have? Who are all the VPs? Or what are the different accounts or customers that these people have? Now, reconnaissance is something more like publicly available information. Like if you're searching for me now, right? You can find my LinkedIn profile, you can find where I'm working, then you can think, okay, what is the company that he is doing, all that stuff, right? So reconnaissance is nothing but gathering general information about a particular entity. Now, this is the first step. Even uh, people do this, right, while stalking other people. Okay, who is he, where is he from, which college did he attend? So that's the same process that a hacker is doing to a company. So he gets all those informations. Now, what are the different techniques that he uses to get this information? Now, as a hacker trying to get into a company that is ABC, he will employ a lot of these methods to get the most information out of that company. So I am explaining maybe 3 or 2 from each of these different tactics. But as I mentioned, there are a lot more in the MITRE page, and then you can do a lot of self-learning after this webinar. My idea is to get you guys started on this, and then you can continue learning about these different things, and then you can actually call yourself an expert in cybersecurity, because a lot of these topics covered today in this webinar, a lot of people don't know. They don't have access to this information, or they just don't know how to understand it, right? So take it in that way. Now, the hacker who is trying to exploit into ABC systems does a few of these items, right? If you remember, Akshay in the last webinar was talking about a tool called Wireshark and Nmap and all that, right? So he was telling, there was port scanning being done using Nmap. You can do port scanning and all that. So now if we can relate, that is actually a method or a technique used by hackers to understand, okay, how is this organization looking like? Or if say I am, trying to exploit some of you, what I would do is I would first try to connect to your system and understand, okay, what are the open ports? What are the applications that he or she is using, right? So first is active scanning, right? Trying to find, okay, are there any existing vulnerabilities, right? Instead of me creating something new, is there already an existing one? For example, if you're telling everybody my Facebook password is my dog's name, and then I just ask what is your dog's name, basically that information is out there, right? It is an already existing vulnerability that I don't really need to exploit, but it's just out there. So reconnaissance phase, the hacker, what they'll be doing is gathering all the information. Now, one of the methods is active scanning, like say using port scanning methods to understand what are the open ports or hosts, right? What are the existing vulnerabilities in a system? Now, you must have heard even Cisco posting about a lot of things like, please update your systems. If your mobile is old, please update it to the latest software update. Why do they say that? Because a lot of these legacy systems, or the ones that are not updated, they'll have a lot of these vulnerabilities, right? Even in your Android phone, you will get these notifications like, okay, please update it, this is a security update, or bugs have been fixed. What are these, right? They are fixes because these port scanning tools or vulnerability scanners can actually pick that up. You will think, okay, it's my phone, how can somebody know it's there? But when somebody runs a global scan of the same vulnerability, they can actually pick up with your IP address and location saying there is a vulnerability. So hackers during reconnaissance phase can do the scan and then get, okay, who all have these vulnerable systems with them. Now, one of the methods is active scanning, right? It can be scanning for IP addresses. Like if you are inside a company, you might have a reserved public IP address, and then like hackers can scan the entire public IP block to understand, okay, what are some vulnerabilities, what are some open ports, what are the hosts there, what are the applications that they're using, things like that. Otherwise, what they can do is they can get information about the victim's network, right? Now, the idea again, I say, is the hacker to compromise ABC systems. Now, he is trying to get into ABC systems and do something, right? So the first part is he's collecting information. Now, what kind of information does he want? He's looking for, what are the domains this particular organization has, right? How does this organization network topology look like? Like, how many branches do they have? Where are they connected? Do they use a VPN to maybe, connect into the network? Where all do they have firewall? How does the employee, get into the system and work every day, right? If the employee laptop has something configured. Now, a hacker is trying to find all of this information in the first phase of the attack. He's trying to get as much information as possible. And the last topic in the reconnaissance phase is phishing. If you guys have heard about phishing, give me a thumbs up. I know most of you have, at least all of you, because if you have not heard about phishing, that is a problem. You really need to know what it is. I can see some raised hands, or you can give me a thumbs up. Kaushik, just a pointer. If there are questions, please go ahead and ask them. Right. So okay, phishing for the people who don't know what phishing is. It's basically that thing people tell you, don't click on links, right? If somebody is sending you a link and then like, okay, you want 10,000 rupees or you have got the lottery, go visit this and take it. That's basically phishing, right? So there are a lot of types of phishing. I mentioned 3 types here: spear phishing, service, attachment, and link. So spear phishing service is something like in Facebook, right? Like you will get this app like, okay, your girlfriend is from this town, or your future girlfriend will be from this town. You use that service and basically they get all your information, right? So spear phishing service is nothing but they use services like Facebook or other social media apps to get your information, and that is used in the reconnaissance phase, right? You'll be thinking, what is my information worth, right? But think of it like this: you are part of ABC company or ABC systems. You are an employee. Now you have a lot of Instagram posts, you have a lot of Facebook posts, and then you have posts inside our campus, you have photos inside the ABC systems, right? Now if a hacker has access to these information, he is not trying to hack you, he is trying to hack the organization, and you will be the source that is giving him or her this information. So phishing is the one of the major problems in cybersecurity. A lot of security systems are there to block and defend these, but still it happens, right? During our festive seasons, I know everybody gets a phishing link saying there's a sale happening and all that, and then there will be an attachment. You download the attachment, now your system is affected with a malware. Or if there's a link, okay, click this link to claim the offer, or click this link to get a free COVID vaccine. You click that link, you would think nothing is gone, but the hacker would have access to all of your information. So if it is, again, a quick best practice here, if it is some link or something that you don't know, don't click on it. Always go through trusted sources. If it is too good to believe, right, it's better to just avoid it. So on the reconnaissance raids, just to summarize, what we learned is hackers use this particular process to get the information about the company, its employees, or its network topology, and this is basically the information collection part, right? Now he has a lot of this information. Now he knows, okay, what are the vulnerable ports, how many hosts are there, what does the network topology look like, and then he has some information about what the company looks like. Now the next part is, with all this information, now I have to create these attacks, right? Now I know, okay, how does ABC system look like? What does the network look like? Now I have to create these different malware. It could be malware, right, that I can send to employees using emails saying they have won a huge lottery. It could be links that I can send them. It could be tools or things that I can use to exploit the network, saying I can, basically the process of resource development is I'm creating these tools, exploits, and vulnerabilities so that I can start my process of attacking the firm, right? So, resource development phase, it's all about what is it? It's all about leveraging the information from our reconnaissance phase and creating these different kinds of tools and malware. Now, what am I trying to achieve here, right? uh, I am trying to first compromise the infrastructure. That would be the domains that the company owns. This would be DNS servers, these would be VPNs. I might even create some botnet so that I can do some other attacks later on. So basically I'm prepping for the attack here. I know the information about the company from the reconnaissance phase, and in the resource development phase I am creating these tools and malware to start the attack, right? Now, once I am done creating these, I am also staging these, as in I want to test this out if it works or not, right? Like it's basically like we also need to test, okay, I have made this attack, but does it work? Now, all of these different techniques happen in the space of resource development. Any questions till now, Kaushik?
There is one question. Types of phishing.
Types of phishing.
Yeah.
So as you can see, the major ones I've mentioned here, right? There are a lot of kinds of phishing, but we would try to categorize it as either service, attachment, or link, because it's mostly that, right? You either get into it through a service, like say Facebook or social media, Instagram, or it could be an attachment that's emailed to you, right? So maybe you go to a website and download a free game, or it could be you're going to a video website and downloading a video. Now that is an attachment, that's a file that gets downloaded and it gets executed, right? Now a service is something like Facebook, that you click on something and your information is transferred. Now a link is something, again, you get in WhatsApp, Instagram, or email, that you say, okay, click on this link, and then something occurs. So we can majorly categorize it into service, attachment, or link, but based on how it is done. So there will be spear phishing, different kinds, like the delivery method, right? If it's coming to you via email, or if I am a person, I am your friend, and I am sending you this link, hey man, check out this cool shoes on this link. Now it's different, right? Now there's a part of social engineering there, and then there is phishing, but the major categorization would be service, attachment, and a link. Any other question?
There's another question on enumeration of a machine is a part of reconnaissance, right?
Sorry.
Enumeration of a machine is a part of reconnaissance.
Okay, by enumeration, if you mean like we are just collecting information in the reconnaissance phase, right? So that's all what you're doing. So okay, yeah, we can consider that. Any other questions?
Is active scanning can make a record in the logs of the server?
Okay, we'll come to that, right?
Okay.
We've
Okay.
discussed this in the last session as well, wherein people are asking, okay, during an Nmap port scanning, will this be there in the logs, right? So we will come to that. We will discuss that in this session more.
Another question on botnet. What is exactly a botnet? Yeah.
What is?
Botnet.
What is a botnet? Okay.
Yeah.
So botnet is a very interesting topic to learn more. I'll give you guys a very brief information about what a botnet is, and then you can do a lot more searching. Right. So a botnet is basically nothing but a collection, like a lot of these systems that somebody has compromised. Now this would be something like you are all in colleges, right? So maybe like I send you a link saying, this could be click on this to get your final certificate. Now that will infect one person, and then it will start infecting all these students inside the college, right? Now the delivery method would for a botnet would be something like a phishing link, or you are downloading something. But the idea is that now once your system gets infected, it will be talking to a command and control center. I will come to that. What is a command and control? What are these systems used for? But the idea is a lot of systems, when I say a lot, it could be 10,000, 1 lakh devices can be compromised. And then one attacker can control all of these different systems to do one thing, right? So if I have access to all 10,000, computers that you guys have, now if I use those 10,000 computers to send a request to a website, say facebook.com, so you all know if like one person asks facebook.com, okay, give me this web page, it will give it. But when a lot of people send the same request, it might lead to denial of service, right? So for some of these attacks that we will discuss later on, hackers use something called as a botnet. It's basically a collection of computers that are controlled, that reaches out to a command and control center and is controlled by this hacker to do one thing. So we call them zombie systems. People wouldn't even know if they are part of a botnet. Like your computer right now could be a part of a botnet, you wouldn't know, right? That's how they actually run. One more search term, you can search about Mirai, Mirai. That's a very famous botnet. Some students created it to play Minecraft, but it spread across the world and it created havoc. So if you want to learn more about botnets, just search for Mirai botnet on Google. It's a very interesting topic. Okay, Kaushik, any more questions or shall we continue?
We can continue.
Okay. So in the last processes, what we did was we had reconnaissance phase where we learned about the organization ABC, how it works, what's the network topology. In the next phase of resource development, we created the exploits and found out the vulnerabilities. We also staged them. Okay, how will it work or not? Now we have some of these exploits, right? Now the next step is the initial access. It is I am going in contact with the organization, right? That's basically like it's like putting your first foot inside, or like putting your foot inside your like jumping into the water of sorts. So I'm just mentioning these three different stuff that that the techniques that I've seen. One would be a drive-by compromise. When I say drive-by compromise, it's not like somebody driving by and then the driving by ABC systems and that's getting compromised. It is a technique wherein after the attacker knows about these vulnerabilities or exploits, now this can be something like abcsystems.com. It can be their company website, right? When they were doing this reconnaissance, they understood that the company website that's selling the product, it could be like Amazon or Nika, the company website has a lot of vulnerabilities. Now the attacker, what would they do is they will inject these vulnerabilities into the site itself, right? So next time you go to amazon.com, you trust amazon.com, right? Now if there is a vulnerability in that and a hacker exploited it, what would happen is now that particular website will infect you, right? So a drive-by compromise, what it will actually do is it will try to inject a lot of these malicious exploits into say their systems, and then that from there it will start exploiting other people. Another technique in initial access would be exploiting a public facing application, right? Now we all know their same example, like Amazon or Flipkart, where it's public facing, everybody can access this. Now this could also be like internal company servers, right? Like a Google form, or maybe it's like a registration portal that the company creates for an event. Now if the registration portal is not properly created, it would have a lot of these vulnerabilities. Now a hacker that's basically their front door into the company, right? Now that can be, so exploiting a public facing application is another technique that the adversary would use. The next major guy is the default accounts. So before, when I explained about the Mirai botnet happened because a lot of the IoT systems that you might buy, right? Smart bulb, your router, or your smart oven, anything, all these things will have their default username password. I am sure 50% of you will still have the default username and password for your home router. It would be admin root, admin password would be password 123, right? So hackers also know this, wherein if you buy something and you don't change the password, beware, with the scans, they can just get into it as easy. It's the easiest way because all these passwords are available publicly. Everybody knows the password to a router is admin or admin password or admin root, right? So if it is public facing and then somebody actually gets into it, default accounts or default passwords would be the one way that a hacker can actually get into the system. Now, we have discussed wherein he planned for the attack, he made the tools and the malware. Now he's inside, right? Now he has come inside. Now what will happen? Now the execution starts, right? What is he trying to do now? Now he has access to the system, or he is now inside the system of ABC Corporation, right? Now there are a lot of things that you can do. It's basically like sending you to a chocolate shop with a lot of chocolates, and or basically maybe sending you into a mall, right, wherein you can do anything inside that mall. It's basically like that. But some of the execution things, now this is a very properly planned hacking method. Okay, so these are different techniques that we have identified as cybersecurity folks that hackers seem to be using, and then from that we have made the MITRE metrics. So for execution, we would see, right, even you see in movies, right, somebody gets into a system, suddenly a CLI or a command pops up, and then people start like putting commands on their keyboard, right, like push 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 push. You see a lot of commands moving up and down. That's basically a hacking scene in every other movie. So yeah, that's basically you can think of it as execution phase, where they're exploring now. Okay, I'm inside the system, what do I do, right? I'll immediately try to access the shell or the command prompt of it. It could be your computer, it could be a network device like a router or a switch, it could be a firewall, it could be any system that is connected inside, right? It could be your web server, it could be a mobile phone, it could be a smartwatch. I'll try to get into each of these devices. First find the shell, right, basically the command line interface to the system, and then what I might try to do is I might try to schedule these tasks so that I can be there, right? I'll schedule tasks like, okay, when the computer starts up, run this particular program, or what other things that I could do is I got into the system, but I also send you an email with a link, but you never clicked on it. But now I am inside the system. Now I can click on it and get more malware into the system, right? So that these are the execution techniques that adversaries use. Next is persistence. Now, in the initial access phase, they just got in. In the execution phase, we saw them, running these different stuff, scheduling these tasks, and also, getting more malware inside. Now, the next part is persistence. Persistence, or how can I stay there for a long time, right? Basically, if I've compromised the system, basically if, like, I've hacked your system or I've hacked the system of ABC systems, I want to stay there for a long time without them knowing I'm there. Only then can I make full use of what I have been doing so far, all the planning and execution, right? If I'm just inside and then they throw me outside, it's no use. All the planning, all the resource development will go into waste, right? So the idea or the techniques behind persistence are, what I'll do is I'll start creating these different local accounts that they can't find, right? I can create these different domain accounts. I can start creating these different network scripts that whenever it logs in, it will start these scripts, right? I can also do some device registration where I am registering this device to my account, so that whatever they're trying to do, it's basically like a parasite. I'm becoming a parasite where I'm just staying inside the system. Whatever you're trying to do, I might be, I'll come inside in another way, right? So that's all about persistence. Once a adversary is inside the system, after they have done executing some of these tasks and scheduling, what they'll try to do next is persistence, or staying inside the system for a long time. And some of the techniques that they use would be SSH authorized keys, creating these SSH keys so that we can later log in through a different key itself, It could be device registrations, it could be logon scripts, it could be startup items. At least we have seen before that you always check in Windows, right? What are the startup items? Because if you are infected by a malware, you will see some new startup item inside your task manager, right? Suddenly the process will start up and then it will use the entire CPU. This is because something new has come in and it's trying to stay there. Kaushik, any questions until now?
No.
We are good. Guys, if you have any
We are good.
questions until this, please ask me. Go ahead. I can give you some time.
There's one question. How will they classify the malicious message?
How will who classify the malicious message?
The entity.
No,
It's
no.
not
Is it the
specified that.
user or is it like who is trying to classify?
It is not mentioned. The question is only how will they classify the malicious message?
If it's okay, I can explain. If it's like you are trying to find if it's a malicious thing or not, it's if you have that doubt, then it's a malicious thing. Okay, because if you trust something, then it's okay. But if this is something new to you and then you're trying to identify if it's malicious or not, then it's malicious. Don't click on it. Don't download it. Don't try to do anything with it. Just report it. Right now, if it's somebody from the cybersecurity team or the IT team that's trying to find if it's a malicious thing, you will actually be learning how to do that. So we have a webinar on forensics coming up, and they will actually show you how to identify if something is bad or what it is actually planning to do. So yeah, that's there. Any other
There is another question. Are there any tool to find if our system is infected or is a parasite?
Okay, so if if you're trying to, so the first indications would be suddenly if your computer is heating up and it's using a lot of processing power, right? It was working normally, now the battery is going down. You are seeing a lot of this information when connected to the internet. That's also an important part. When connecting to internet, if you see a lot of activity, then you know there is something wrong. One other method would be to open up task manager and then look at the startup processes and the processes running. If you see some processes that you don't really recognize, right, just Google the process name. Most of the time it will help. If it is a process name that is for Windows or Mac or Linux, mostly Google will have the answer saying, okay, this is the process, this is what it's supposed to do. But if Google is not giving you any answer, then you know that it is like affected by a malicious system. So the major indication would be high processing. Basically, your CPU would say something like 80% or above, your disk will be very high and your network will be very congested, right? So that is one indication to know if your system is infected. The other indication would be to, if you are using Windows, to turn on Windows Defender. Because most of the time, if it's a malware, Windows Defender is updated, right? And then they'll quickly catch it. So these are the methods.
What does network logon script means?
Yeah, so see, same thing as what you would see on your system, right? So when a system logs in, it can automatically run some scripts, right? Or so that is there, and it can even be like automatically logging into some of these systems. So these scripts can be written for persistence, wherein if I really don't want to leave, I can run an automated script so that this next time it starts up, it can automatically log into these systems. Okay, then we can.
Yeah, we can
Go ahead.
continue.
Okay. Kaushik, just keep a note of the questions I have not answered, and then we can take it in the next one. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So next up we have privilege escalation. So we went through execution. Now I'm persistence inside the network, right? Next step, what I'm trying to do is I somehow got inside. Now I want to be king, right? Or I want to increase my privileges, or I want to be root user. You might have used in Linux when you do like some command, it does not work, but now you do sudo the command and it works, right? It's basically giving a user admin access or root permission, we would say. Now, a hacker would also do the same thing. Once inside the system and they are persistent or they can't be removed from the system, the next thing that they would do is try to get more access, as in escalate their privileges. Now, you would see this, right? What they would try to do. First would be like the user account control. Like there would be permission saying, okay, Hari is only able to do this stuff, and then Kaushik can only do this stuff. But what they would try to do is they'll try to evade that, right? Using these different tools that they have, they'll try to evade that and escalate their permissions. Then you already know about sudo and how it gives root permission. Now they'll try to see if like they can get that in, right? Or it could even be sudo caching, right? Get the cache from a system and then try to see if that runs. Basically, privilege escalation is about you are first inside, now you want more privileges to do more stuff, right? Basically, you need administrator or root level privileges. Okay, going to the next one. So this is the part we are talking about, right? People were asking, okay, if I am like infected, how would I know? Or what would somebody be looking at this? How would they know? The idea is for the hacker is he is also asking the same questions, right? I am inside. I am trying to do all this, bad stuff to the company. I am running these exploits. I am putting all these different files into their system, but they would obviously find out that I am doing all of this, right? They would know I am uploading stuff, I'm downloading stuff, I'm doing all this. Now the whole idea about being a very good or professional hacker is defense evasion, right? It could be doing all of this, but nobody can detect what is actually happening. Now, some of the different techniques that hackers use for these would be hiding artifacts, right? So whenever I'm downloading a malicious file, once I'm inside the system, or I am, sending out files, right? I'm just sending files out of the system. These would be hidden, right? So covering my tracks is the most important part if I am trying to exploit a system. Now, this is something as defenders or cybersecurity defenders, we should also understand that hackers or bad adversaries think about it. Don't think like, oh, they might have not thought about it, I can find them. No, this is basically their action plan. Okay, so what I'm explaining to you is basically an action plan for a hacker. These are the different protocols that every major attack will follow. So towards the end of the session, I can show you, or you can even search for some of the major attacks that have happened, like maybe WannaCry you might have heard, even Mirai, and you can understand the you can actually click on that attack and MITRE metrics for that particular attack will show up. It will tell you what the attacker did in each of these phases and then how he did it, right? So in the defense evasion techniques part, what the hackers do would be they'll hide the files in directories what they are using. They could create these hidden users, right? Like Kaushik would have his laptop. I would be Hari, but I would be a hidden user. He wouldn't know I am there. I am a user inside it, right? But I will be able to access his laptop and run all these commands. Same thing for a system, for a company. If a company server, I am being a hidden user, people wouldn't know that I'm there, right? So these are also methods that these bad adversaries use. Just to add one point, why we are discussing all this is you understand, okay, this is what they are doing. Now, what can we do, right? So when trying to solve a problem or when trying to come up with a solution for a problem, we need to understand what is the thought process behind that. Then we can come up with a solution. So that's why we are discussing from the hacker's perspective or what the protocols are that they are doing, right? The next major thing would be impaired defenses. Now, this is what I told you. When you suspect that there is a malicious or a malware inside your system, you can go and check your firewall or your antivirus software might be turned off, right? Because the malware itself can do that. So if you suddenly see that your antivirus protection is turned off, then you know there is something inside, right? Because if you did not turn it off, something did, right? So the whole idea is, if uh, if I am not good enough to create a program to hide these artifacts, what I can do is I can destroy the things that will find me, right? So it's like going into a system and then destroying the firewall or destroying the antivirus software itself, so that it won't be able to find me, right? So this would be like changing the configuration for the firewall. This could be like modifying the system settings for like the antivirus software. It could even be spoofing security alerts, right? So whenever an antivirus program detects okay, this is a malware, what this will do is, instead of sending that alert, it will send, oh, this is not a malware, please open it, right? It can send a notification like that. Sorry. Now, one other method that you will learn more about in the cryptography section webinar would be steganography, right? Like we learned about hiding artifacts and even impairing the like the antivirus software or the firewall. But there is also another method using cryptography, or like particularly steganography. We can hide files inside and then bring them inside, and nobody would know that it's actually inside, right? So that's also another method, also another technique that bad actors would use, and you will actually learn to decrypt and work with steganography in the coming up session, cryptography session. Kaushik, any questions?
How much firewall layer required to avoid infection or parasite?
How much firewall
Layer.
layer?
I
Maybe,
also
okay,
didn't get
maybe
it.
you are trying to understand like how many layers of security you would need. I wouldn't say you can't say security is layered, right? At least for an enterprise or like a company, there would be different levels of like isolation, right? So there would be a major firewall system at the enterprise level, and then for each of the organizations, they would have different firewall systems, intrusion detection systems, right? Now for each team or each building, they would have access control implemented. So from company to company, that keeps on changing. There is if I suggest that you need 100 layers of security, and if I'm a good enough hacker, I can go through all 100, right? So the idea that you would learn from this is, it is not the number of layers or the capability of the product. You could buy the premium version of Windows Defender, or you could have a Cisco firewall that is the best in the world and deploy it. But if you still configured it wrong, it is as useless as anything else, right? So when it comes to security, it's not the amount or what you have. It's more like how well are you implementing it, right? So for say such an attack, like for defensivation, most of the firewalls and the systems now have the capability to detect, right? If there is something like somebody is trying to access it, even one packet flowing through, we would be able to find out that this thing is happening. Now if the admin has a rule saying that you don't need to inspect this packet, then it will come inside, right? So it's all in how we use it. So it could be a very dumb firewall, or it could be a very like small antivirus software that you have, but if you are properly configured, 99% of the time that will defend it. So I think that answers your question. Kaushik, any other questions?
In one question is there, the effective way to restrict all the phishing attempts at the user level.
All the phishing.
Phishing attempts.
Yeah, don't click on any links. Don't download stuff from the internet that you don't trust, right? So if you basically, if it just says download and it's like opening up 10 different ads, then you know it is a problem, right? So always go through trusted sources for downloading. I am telling you, I have seen this firsthand. I have created some of these payloads. Everybody, how much ever smart you are, people still fall for phishing attempts, right? So always think twice before clicking any link or downloading any file. It is out there all the time. Whenever you get a link saying you have to do something, or it has some price attached to it, and then it is creating some emergency, right? You have to click, you have to register now, or this will close in another 10 minutes, or within the next day you have to claim this offer. If it is saying that, then you know there is some problem behind it, because normal uh, people or organizations don't create that sense of urgency. You can also notice for phishing attempts, you can also notice a lot of the language might be not great, right? Because it is not proofread, it is not verified by people. You will also notice the language, the formatting will be very bad. Like, I think if you go and check your spam folder but don't open it, like you will see a lot of messages from the Sudan prince, or from the maybe even from like the prime minister, saying please send me 10 rupees, I need to take the bus, and I will give you 1 crore back, right? Because all of this is just fake. It's creating a sense of urgency and then making you click that link. So yeah, that's one indication that you can find out to avoid these phishing attempts at you.
We can continue.
Okay. Okay. So we have successfully evaded the different systems, that these are firewalls and anti-malware software that are inside the system. Now what I am trying to do is I am trying to access the credentials. Now these would be, see, I am somehow already inside the system, I am doing stuff, but now I need to now I need access to different systems, right? Or I'm inside ABC Corporation through an employee, right? Now I need access to the CEO's account, or I need access to the finance department or the HR payroll portal, right? Or the funding department's bank account. Now, how do I get that? Now, I can't simply go and exploit a bank, right? Now, my idea is to exploit ABC Corporation. So from ABC Corporation, what I can do is I can collect these credentials using some of these techniques, right? Credentials can be passwords. It could be anything that is useful, right? So something like brute forcing a password. You might have heard about this, right? Brute forcing password, like password crackers. These are softwares that can like send multiple attempts. Like in some websites, you might have seen, when you enter the password 3 times, like wrong 3 times, it will block you. You can't access it, especially banking sites. If you enter the password wrong for 3 attempts, then it will block you for the day. So why is this there? Because of this problem, wherein I can create a script that will send like 500 different password combinations, right? Even in your phone, you can see this. Like when you enter the passcode wrong for many times, it will lock you out. Why is that there? Because of this. Because it is, the process is called brute forcing, wherein it will send these different combinations and it will try to crack it, like password 1 2, password 1 2 3, password 1 2 3 4. Some of this will be correct, right? It could be your name, it could be your date of birth, it could be your dog's name, it could be your mother's name. All this information I can simply type and see, and something or the other will work. So that is basically the process of brute forcing. I can also guess, right? There is a video I've been seeing in social media, some things like, hey, what is your social media password? No, will you tell me your social media password? The person will say no. And then she will ask, okay, tell me what it is. Then they'll say, okay, it is my like dog's name, right? Then the person will ask, okay, what kind of dog do you have? Okay, then they'll say, I have, say, a golden retriever. Then they'll say, okay, what is your dog's name? Then the person will tell the name, right? So basically, you can do some social engineering, or you can just guess the password. I can guess one of your passwords. Anybody in this call, it would be, I know it is your name and your date of birth, right? It would be your name with your first your date and then your month of birth. I'm 100% sure the person who is on this call would know that one of you will have that as your password somewhere. It would have caps lock, it would have some character in it, but it will still be there, right? So that's password guessing, right? Password cracking is something like brute force where you're sending in a lot of passwords. Password spraying is nothing but you're just trying this out, like what we've seen in default passwords, right? Admin root, admin password, things like that. One of the other methods to get credential access is through password managers, keychains, and credentials from web browsers. I know a lot. I'm sure 70 to 80% people in this call would be saving their passwords in the web browser, right? When you're signing into Chrome, it'll ask you, can I save your password? Then you'll click save, right? So most of the people will do that. I used to do that before. Whenever it's asking for a password, I used to, yeah, save for me. I don't have to remember it, right? But what will a hacker do once they are inside the system? They can easily go to the credential web store for the browser and then get a list of all the passwords. You can actually do this. You can actually check this. Okay, this is an activity for all of you. This is not hacking into anybody, but you can try to hack yourself. Go to passwords.google.com. Passwords.google.com. Then sign into your Google account. It's basically a Google site. Okay. Now, this particular Google site will give you a list of all the saved passwords that you ever had. Okay. So this is all the passwords, whatever you had. Now, what you're trying to get in, you can even export it as a like a Excel sheet. Now, what this says is you only need one password. So if I basically get your Gmail password, right, I can somehow find that out. I can get access to all the other passwords. This would be your banking information. This would be your college login. This would be your Facebook, Instagram, all logins, right? So we have seen a lot of these attacks wherein because people are saving passwords and attackers just get access to one of these credential stores, right? Especially web ones, web browsers like Chrome or Firefox or Safari. They are able to get all the other passwords of all the different systems. So that's basically credential access. One other method that I would like to discuss is key logging. How many of you have heard about key logging? Give me a thumbs up. Key logging. Okay, I see a raise and give me a thumbs up. So you can do reactions on WebEx. Okay, I see a lot of thumbs up. Okay, this is good. So key logging is nothing but you all type your passwords on your keyboard, right? So when a banking app asks or your Instagram asks or even on your phone, you always type in your passwords, right? You don't store it, but you type in. But if I have a software to record your keystrokes, I know again 30% people in this call would have a special keyboard installed in their phone, right? That one like looks like anime or that has some picture in it or it looks very fancy. You downloaded the keyboard from Play Store and you have installed it. Now these are key logging softwares wherein if I have something that's not default, it could actually capture my keys. So when I type Hari, it can actually capture this and send it to somebody. Okay. So again, if you're installing something from a third-party software that's not already there, be very sure what kind of permission it has, right? Because these could be key logging softwares. Now, as an attacker, once I'm inside the system, I will install a keylogger in almost every system. Because not only will I already know the passwords and the credentials, but now whenever they create new passwords or whenever they change the passwords, I will know about that too. Because you all use keyboard or you will use mouse to enter this, right? There is no other way that you're going to type in a password. So if I have a software that can capture that, that's basically key logging. Now, there is no other way, right? So beware. So that is another technique in credential access that attackers use. Any questions, Kaushik?
Is it possible to break AES encryption without key?
So my friends, all the encryptions method that we have, right? SHA, MD5, AES, they are all, at least AES is somewhat the best now. But SHA-1 came exploited, SHA-2 came exploited, SHA-3 is there almost exploited. So a lot of these encryption algorithms, you will learn a lot more in the session, the cryptography session about the algorithms, what is encryption, decryption and all that. But what I am saying is, in our generation, like AES in the old generation was the best, right? But when we have new quantum computers and faster supercomputers, the amount of time it takes to crack such um, a algorithm is becoming easier. So the idea is nothing is totally safe. We just start inventing new algorithms to compete some of this. So the bigger answer is yes, but I would say not now. If you ask me, can you decrypt a AES without a key? I'll say no. But can I in the future? I'll say yes. So yeah. Kaushik, any other questions?
Is password spraying?
Yeah, so just told you, right? Just trying to like put some default ones, right? It could be like password, root. So just throwing it out there, kind of like that.
Another question. Does the default keyboard has keylogger?
No, so that's what. So if you are properly keeping your software update, and then if you are not downloading crazy stuff from internet and putting it in, see, only you can introduce this into your own systems, right? Either somebody will have to sit and hack you, or you only will download and install something. So if you don't have anything installed from outside, then you're okay. Default ones are always perfect because they have to go through compliance checks and security checks before giving it to customer. But once it reaches your hand, if you download something and install, then yeah, it might be a keylogger. But if it is default, then yeah, it would be good, and then you always do software updates.
Okay. Another one question. What are the steps to take care while keeping password?
Keeping password, don't save it. That's one way.
Yeah.
Try to
Yeah.
remember it. Right. So don't put it your name and your date of birth. So the idea is, for a very good password is it needs to have a capital letter, a symbol. It should be 8 letters or above, or 8 characters or above. One major hint I would give you is, don't save it. It can be something that you can remember, right? It does not have to be your name and then your date of birth. It could be your mother's sister's name and her date of birth, right? So like nobody would guess it like very fast, but it is still a thing. So that is maybe one thing I would say.
Yeah. We can continue.
Okay.
Hari.
Okay. Now we have actually learned about a lot of these different techniques. Right now, the adversary is already inside. He is doing a lot of stuff. He executed a lot of stuff. He has access to the credentials. Right now, the next part is to understand. Okay, what are all the other things that are inside the system? Now, ABC system is already inside the network. Right now, he's already sending payloads to all the employees. Now he is doing in the discovery phase. Okay, what more can I do? In this process, it's basically information gathering. Once he's inside the system, now this is different from reconnaissance. Sorry. Now this is different from reconnaissance because now in the discovery phase, the adversary is already inside the system, and then they're trying to get more knowledge about the internal system, right? Now this could be like they're inside the ABC systems, and now they have found, okay, they also have a cloud account, or ABC system is also partnered with this EDF system, right? Now using this internal information, they can do more stuff. So once they are inside, they have collected the credentials. Now they start the discovery phase of understanding what more is there, right? So it could be like, okay, I found out there's a cloud account, or I can found out, okay, there is a different branch office, or I can found out, okay, CEO has a different office, or I can say, okay, I have access to 10 different of these customers, right? Now ABC systems could be serving customers, and some of the customer username and passwords might be stored in their system. Now once during the discovery phase, the hacker would have access to this information also. And then what they would try to do is the next step, that is basically lateral movement. Now once they have done exploiting the ABC systems, from there they'll try to go out into other stuff, right? They'll be trying to get into some different networks. It could be some other branch, or it could like inside the network itself, they'll trying to find like it could be some different web server, it could be some other systems that they want to try and exploit. So lateral movement is nothing but once they're inside the system, they'll try to move around, right? This is like the spy, or you are in a mall, right? I gave you full access. Now you are going and exploring each and every store, right? After the Nike store, you will go into the Nika store, or maybe after the Nika store, you will go into the Reliance Digital store, right? So once you're inside, you will do lateral movement. Now the next part is collection, right? So I am inside. I've gotten access to all the systems. I am inside all the customer systems and all the other systems that are connected. I am hidden from all the people trying to find out what I am doing. Now what I try to do is I try to collect things. Now this is the major objective that I have been wanting to do till this time, right? Because until this point, what was I doing? I was exploiting the system. I was moving around. I was hiding myself. Now from now onwards, what I'm trying to do is I am trying to get some impact from what I did. Now I've hacked into ABC systems. Now what do? Right now I start to steal stuff. Now what am I stealing? Now if it's a company, this would be company secrets, right? If I go into, if I'm like say hacking Tesla, I would know what are they working on, what is the new car design. Or if I like just like exploited Apple, I would know, okay, when is the Vision Pro coming out, or what does the next iPhone design look like. All right, it could be engineering designs, it could be bank accounts or monetary things, right, wherein I can collect. So this is the collection phase where I am trying to exfiltrate, or it could be data, it could be money, or it could be like video files or emails, important documents that I'm trying to do. It could be like screenshots that I'm trying to take. So in the collection phase of an adversary, what they're doing is they're collecting. So this is where the results are coming up, right? For all this while I've been trying to get into it and try to hide, but now what I'm doing is I'm getting the results of this attack. So I'm taking all of this information. Now I'm collecting all the information. I'm taking the files. I'm stealing the data. And then what happens is the next phase of command and control. Now I have been doing this all inside the system, right? We've discussed about command and control even during botnet, where I am sitting somewhere else and exploiting. Now all these things will have to come back to me, right? Somehow, because otherwise there is no use. What is the point of me hacking into ABC systems just so I can tell people I hacked into ABC systems? No, right? I need some kind of like motivation to do it. What is my motivation? All the data, all the bank accounts, all the intellectual capital, all these things that I've collected, now I have to send it back. Now that is the command and control, right? A command and control is where the adversary might be sitting somewhere else in the world. This would be an attack from a different country to you. Now from your computer, all this data has to somehow reach there, right? So they set up a command and control system, right? This would again be another program or an exploit that they'll use to exfiltrate the data. So once we are done with the collection and we have set up the command and control, what we are doing is we are sending all this data. This would be the design information for the new launch. This would be financial information. This would be credentials. This would be employee information. Like just last week, there was a news that the BBC and all these different companies payroll data, HR information got hacked by Russian hackers, and they are saying that they will publish it, right? Now once they hacked it, they have exfiltrated the data, and then what are they doing? They're blackmailing that they will publish it, otherwise give them money, right? Same thing what we have seen with WannaCry, where it was actually encrypting these files and asking for money. So after the collection and then setting up the command and control, they do exfiltration of data. Basically, whatever they have stolen from the system, they are taking it to their place so that they can maybe blackmail it or sell it. So that's the next phase called exfiltration. And finally, I wouldn't say this is the last technique, but this is the impact that the bad adversary or the hacker was trying to do all this while, right? It could be deleting your accounts. It would be blackmailing to say, I will destroy your data. We have seen a lot of YouTubers and Instagrammers, right? Especially influencers in India getting hacked. Like last, I heard Tanmay Bhatt and some people really got hacked. They lost all their accounts, right? So what is happening there is they are being blackmailed, right? Their account access would be removed. Their data, all the videos that they had was actually deleted, right? And maybe a malware like WannaCry would encrypt this data and then demand a ransom, right? It could also be something like data manipulation. Basically, ABC hacker was nobody other than somebody from this webinar who hacked into their university site and changed their marks or changed their friend's mark, right? That is basically data manipulation. So nobody would know this happened. When the results get published, suddenly, the person is first rank, right? So that is data manipulation. Then there are some of the major things that we have seen, like endpoint denial of service and network denial of service, wherein we've seen like site is down, right? Some like Facebook is down, Instagram is down, or YouTube is down. You might have seen this message saying, okay, this site is not working now. Most of the time it is a configuration error from the internal people, but sometimes it is a denial of service attack or some kind of exploit where they will shut down the website itself, right? A lot of these government websites are always hacked and then they get a denial of service. Basically, the idea behind the whole attack was to shut down the site, right? So these are some of the major problems that they create, the adversaries, throughout this attack phase. So yeah, I think we have gone through the journey of uh, let me just open this. So we've actually gone through this journey of how a hacker would think and what are the different tactics and techniques that they would use to exploit into a system, right? With the help of the MITRE metrics. Now, I was using the MITRE metrics because this is actually used by a lot of industry folks to understand how some of the attacks occur and then what they can do to mitigate, right? For example, if I go into um, valid accounts, so this is one of the techniques that we talked about, right? Here we can see all the different examples, right? What were the attacks that were there, what are the mitigations that are possible, right? How can you detect if such an attack is occurring? So for all the questions you guys had about, how can I detect, how can I find, you can actually refer the MITRE metrics. I'll give you the link here. So this is the link. You can maybe take a screenshot and keep, right. So you can actually, after this session, you can actually go to this link and learn more about what are the different tactics and techniques attackers used. And then if you start understanding the MITRE metrics, I am telling you, you guys would be really, really good in understanding most of the cybersecurity terms and most of how things work around you, right? So this is a very good documentation of all the attacks, like what have happened. It's like history, geography, everything combined into one place. So I encourage all of you guys to go take a look at this and then continue learning. All right. I hope you guys learned a lot from this session about what is an attacker's mindset, how do they go through an attack, what are the different steps that they would follow, and then also after this session continue learning about what are the different mechanisms that we can use to defend. Right. So I'm opening up the session for Q&A. Go ahead and then ask any questions that you have relevant to the session, and then we can close this out.
Hari, there are several questions.
Go ahead.
The first one is, what is resource hijacking?
Resource hijacking is something like, Okay, I'll explain it with an example. Like you are 4 people in a team. Okay, you are doing a team project. Now I am from a different team, and I come and take the best person who is doing the project from you. Right. So it's basically nothing but think of a system that is actually running a lot of processes. Now I can come in as a malware. I can come in and then use the resources that you might have otherwise got. Right. So that is why I told you, if you think your system is affected by malware, go and check the task manager. If you see high CPU usage or RAM usage, then you know something is wrong. So resource is nothing but it would be a computing power, it could be a network, it could be something like that. And then some other malware or some bad adversaries using that resource. That's resource hijacking.
Can you automate hacking?
Yes. A lot of the attacks that we have mentioned here, so this is just a start of session for you guys to understand what are the different processes. So once you start reading more from the MITRE website itself, you will know, okay, a lot of these attacks are actually automated. These would be scripts that hackers would write and they'll automatically work, right? So the hacker won't be sitting and coding all the time. It would be automated scripts or exploits that are running. Just to give you a quick example, you can search more about this. There is a tool called Metasploit, and Metasploit has a lot of these exploits. That these are just exploits. You just have to select the exploit and run it. Right? It will automatically exploit, do the whole hacking, and give you all the results. But again, this is for educational purposes, and Metasploit is used by penetration testers to figure out, these are the good guys trying to figure out if there are any vulnerabilities in systems. So for the answer to your question of can attacks be automated, I would say 90% of the hacking attempts are automated.
And another question, what does VPN do in the system?
Okay, so that's a good question, relevant to Cisco as well, right? Because Cisco creates some of the best VPN systems. So VPN is a virtual private network, right? So what is a VPN is basically, see, you are using a computer, now you are accessing the internet. What will happen is when you say type facebook.com, your facebook.com request will go to your ISP. Say it could be your Airtel, Tata Fiber, whatever ISP that you're using, and then they will connect you to the internet, right? So that's how you're getting the information. Now, this would be your request is going from India to the ISP in India, and then it goes out to the world. But what a VPN does is it establishes a tunnel between these two systems. So internet is nothing but different connected systems, right? It will be like a million computers connected together. That's basically what you call as a internet. Now, a VPN tunnel, what it will do is it will create a tunnel. That means nothing from outside can get in without the proper access, and all the traffic will be diverted. Now, you all would know VPN from a different perspective, right? You're trying to watch movies from US or something else. You will turn on VPN and then suddenly your IP address would change to US, right? But at least on an enterprise or in a company, what a VPN is used for is, see, I am working from my home, right? I can sit in my house but still access Cisco applications. But that is not possible without a VPN system. So what happens is, when I install or when I turn on my VPN, there is a tunnel or a network tunnel that is created between my computer and an internal computer at Cisco. Now, when I actually access something, I'm actually not accessing from my computer. I'm actually using that system to access the data. So even on your phone or on your computer, if you're turning on VPN and then you're browsing, what it is actually happening is it is using another computer to like get the data for you. So you'll be connecting to a server in US, and the US server will do the browsing and then get the data and send it back to you. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, there is one question. VPN or proxy server, which is better?
VPN, as I told you, it is this proxy server is nothing but you can say like to understand.
Not audible, Hari.
Correct. It is just bouncing it from a different. See, if you have a proxy server in
We
India
just
and then you're
lost your
using it
audio.
as, sorry.
Yeah, we lost your audio. Can you repeat the sentence again?
No, now you are audible.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, now you're audible.
Okay. So a proxy would be just like, it is not tunneling your entire packets. It would be something like you are just like using a different system to access it, right? So that would be there. You can't say a proxy which is better, proxy or a VPN. It would, the use would be different. Kaushik, go ahead.
Kaushik, can you go on to the next question, please?
How to test Metasploit safely?
Okay, Metasploit. So Metasploit, you can actually download the Metasploit comes pre-installed inside Kali Linux. Now, Kali Linux is a Linux distribution that penetration testers and hackers use for all their experimenting. So, if you are somebody who want to actually learn more about Metasploit and how these things work, the best thing would be download a virtual machine. It could be VMware or a VirtualBox, and then download a Kali Linux image for the virtual machine. You can run the Kali Linux, and then you will get access to Metasploit. Along with that, you can also download a VM called as Metasploitable. Now, this is a VM that is made to be exploited. That means you are not going to hack into somebody or you are not going to hack a different organization. You are going to learn with something called as Metasploitable. You can Google both of these terms. It is a VM, again a Linux virtual machine that you can install in your VMware or VirtualBox. You can actually hack into that system and then try learning, okay, how different exploits work. So that would be a safe way to learn about these things.
Some guys are asking questions about backtracking.
Sorry, I did not understand. I understand the concept of backtracking, but what?
They are specifically in while using VPN or while using Onion browser.
Mhm.
Is backtracking is possible in that?
Yeah, it is possible, right? If you are using an Onion browser or Tor browser, at least it's still hard, but I wouldn't say it's not possible. VPN, absolutely. VPN has logging. VPN is not a system that hackers use, right? It is implemented because we want to keep everybody away while you're accessing the thing. The idea is not to keep you secret, right? So if you are accessing something through VPN, of course, it can be backtracked to the IP address. And at least as per Indian regulations, the VPN companies in India have to provide this information if they are requested. So yeah.
What measures should vendor take to protect from zero-day vulnerability?
So see, zero-day vulnerability is one thing that the vendor also don't know such a vulnerability exists. So zero-day vulnerability is a vulnerability that nobody knows it is there. But a hacker or a penetration tester would find out, okay, something like this is possible, and then they name it as zero-day vulnerability. So one precaution a vendor could take to avoid zero-day vulnerabilities would be to properly go through a secure development lifecycle and do proper testing to at least rule out a lot of these things. So that would be a method that vendors can follow.
Yeah, while using Kali Linux, what are the things we should to keep in mind for the security purpose?
If you're setting up something what I call like trying to learn about exploitation penetration testing, the first thing I told you was always use a virtual machine or basically isolate it from your host machine, right? And that is the first major thing, because even though you are trying to be the hacker, another hackers uh, they can do a port scanning and see your system is already open, right? So if you are trying to learn, it's better to do the reading and learning first and then go into the experimentation. So first step would be use virtual machines or properly isolated, right? Use virtual machines or virtual images for the experimentation. Second would be, if you are opening up your system to the internet, have proper firewall rules or a minimum network natting done. So that is normally taken care of by virtual machine itself, where the traffic is natted, right? So at least don't turn off that and turn it to all access to internet. At least that would be the basic steps I would say. So if you are somebody who is going to jump into hacking even before understanding what are the measures that we can take to prevent it, then you know what the result would be, right? So first it would be to do your research on how can you isolate more, how can you set up these firewall rules, or how can you guard yourself more, and then start experimenting.
The question is about why password don't have spaces, don't allow spaces.
Because space is not a character. So for passwords, you need characters, right? If there is space, that is
Yeah,
not a
fair enough.
key that we can keep.
Yes. And another question on how digital certificates are bypassed.
That would be covered in the cryptography session, cryptography webinar that we have.
Okay. Another question on how basically firewalls are created.
Firewalls are not created. These are softwares. Enterprises use big firewalls right from Cisco. Normally, all your routers, even your normal computer would have a firewall. You just have to turn it on and configure it properly to allow or deny access. So firewalls would have something called as access policies. It would be an allow or a deny. So the idea is not to create a firewall, but more to configure it properly, so that like you can deny SSH, right? Or you can deny all traffic on port 22, something like that. So it's all about configuring. So if you're somebody who are planning to configure a firewall, you can take that up. Like if it's a firewall on Windows firewall, you can like Google that and figure out how to configure it.
Can cookies be deleted from third-party sites?
Yes, there is an option in our browser that does it automatically.
Yeah, that's all.
Okay, Abhishek, I'll stop the recording now.
Yeah, so